Snapchat, curse words, and cheerleading made their way to the Supreme Court today in a battle over student free speech.
Public schools could punish disruptive student speech in school. Brandy's case asks whether that extends to off-campus speech.
Can public schools punish students for speech outside school grounds?
Brittany Levy was 14 and a freshman at a Pennsylvania high school. And when she didn't make the varsity cheerleading squad, she went on social media and dropped F-bombs on everybody.
Case of the former Monoy area high school cheerleader who was suspended from the team for an expletive-filled post on Snapchat reached the U.S. Supreme Court today.
No, actually I don't, which I feel like is really telling about just like how education has kind of failed us in the terms of like making sure that we know exactly what our rights are, what our amendments are, and things that we are given at birth.
Yes.
What are they?
I don't know.
You know?
Not all of them. I mean, it's just the, freedom of speech, the gun control one. Yeah.
Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and...
Yes, I do. Freedom of religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech.
First person in both days that's actually named all of them.
What can I say? I'm a good American.
Right.
Not completely, no.
Do you know any of them?
I mean, I've got my free speech, freedom of religion. What else I got? You can what's the word? Peaceful protest, something like that, gather. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head.
It's clear that students do not know their First Amendment rights. But how protected do students feel when it comes to those rights, specifically when it comes to off-campus remarks via social media? And that some argue now that the schoolhouse gate has become obscure with the use of social media and online schooling. Gallup conducted an online surveys with nationally representative samples of more than 3,000 U.S. full-time undergraduate students called the First Amendment on Campus 2020 Report, College Students' Views of Free Expression. Here, they found that students continue to regard social media as a central forum for campus discussions, but the discourse online is getting worse. In the report, it states that the students are more likely to engage in a discussion of ideas via social media compared to a face-to-face environment on campus, thus leading to a less civil discussion on all platforms. All this leads to the same question we asked the students. At what point in engaging in free speech online do I not have First Amendment protection?
I think the moment it becomes like rude or demeaning or dehumanizing or degrading to a person or a group of people, I feel like at that point is when we need to like take a step back and realize like, okay, yes, you can have free speech, but it needs to be kind, uplifting, and empowering free speech rather than the latter.
I would say whenever you cross the line of what is right to say and what's not right to say, like racism, cyberbullying, like stuff that, physically or mentally harms someone, that causes physical harm. That's when it shouldn't be protected, you know what I mean?
If it's calling for violence and is clearly racist, sexist, homophobic.
I would say at the point where you're calling for violence against an individual or against an entity. Otherwise, I think you should be allowed to say just about whatever you want.
I don't know the exact written rule. I know it's something along the lines of once it becomes like directly harmful to someone else, but I don't know directly how it's written.
We asked Dean Smith, Dean of Students, and Dean Edmondson, Dean of the College of Education, for some clarification over what protections we have when it comes to off-campus speech. Here's what they had to say.
So we have a student code of conduct here, and those, you have to follow state and federal laws. And so if it breaks any of those, then it can impact their standing at the university, but oftentimes it doesn't. And I don't know if you have a question about hate speech, but hate speech is protected. So if it's on campus or off campus on social media, it's usually protected speech unless it is not. So we follow what the state statute and the Texas Education Code allows us to say. So what they want us to talk about is what's called traditional public forum and open public forum. And so there are no limitations on what speech you can have on social media. It's not regulated by our Texas Education Code. It's also not regulated, I believe, by the state or federal law. So that's why there's nothing in there about that. And most of that speech, again, would be protected on social media. If it's obscenity or something like that that's not protected speech, then there could be, some student code of conduct violations. But other than that, we don't go outside of what the Texas Education Code allows us to do. Yes, they can speak critically about people, departments, the university, professors. That's their right.
And so it wouldn't be considered
Harassment or bullying?
Yes, ma'am.
To speak critically about something?
Yes, ma'am.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So the answer is no. Students definitely do not shed their free speech rights at the schoolhouse door, and they don't do that in the K-12 world, and they definitely don't do that at the university door as well. But as a student, especially in the university setting, they're private citizens, and they are entitled to the protections of free speech. And that includes both on and off-campus speech, and there really should not be an avenue or a venue for punishment to come into play with that. It really depends, because in a lot of ways it's hard to substantiate that an off-campus speech creates an in-class disruption. It may cause conversation, it may, it may be uncomfortable, but discomfort is not a reason to limit speech. And so typically your off-campus speech is very well protected for on-campus consequences. Increase in technology really changes the dynamics of what are the schoolhouse gates, what are on-campus and off-campus speech. To me, the context of that question is if I'm engaged in a classroom activity or a class-related activity, if I'm on the class platform, which for us would be Blackboard, those sorts of things, that is maybe a broader definition of what in-class speech looks like, even if I'm not in the four walls of a classroom physically on campus. The school acts legally in loco parentis, so the school does have an obligation to the safety and well-being of the students, and the in loco parentis means in the place of the parents, which means the parents have trusted the school to be in a supervisory capacity during the school day. In college, everyone's an adult. It's by the legal definition, and so your level of independence is different, and our level of oversight as a university, even though we're still a school, is also different. Your rights do extend further than a student in a K-12 environment.
As a freshman in high school, Brandy Levy didn't make the varsity cheer team, nor get on the softball team. Brandy posted on Snapchat, F school, F softball, F cheer, F everything. The post got around to the cheer coach. Consequently, she got kicked out of the JV cheer team because it violated the team and school rules, even though it was posted outside of school and not during a school-sponsored event. The SCOTUS ended up ruling in favor of Brandy Levy 8-1, citing the First Amendment limits but does not entirely prohibit of off-campus student speech by public school officials, and in this case, in the school district's suspension of BL. Based on what Dean Smith and Dean Edmondson tell us, on top of what the Supreme Court of the United States ruled, we believe that students should not be punished for what they say off campus, even if the comments are critical towards the university. Our interpretation of off-campus speech under the First Amendment is, speech is protected unless it causes substantial disruption to the school day and its functions. Examples, a school shooting threat or a threat of any kind to any person or thing. Unless bonded by a contract or an agreement, students should have protected speech without any consequences of being removed from any specific school-sponsored committee, organization, or position as a student leader. We'd like to thank all the students for helping us in our interviews, in addition to Dean Smith and Dean Edmondson for helping us in this research and taking time out of their day to talk to us. We hope this video has helped you understand your rights as a student while interacting on social media off campus and how that can affect you within the schoolhouse gates. I'm Jesus Martinez.